Hi there everybody, it's Chris van der Kerk here at Blue Rhino Safaris. Today I want to chat to you about something that I've seen on WhatsApp and with some emails floating around, and it's a topic that pops up every year, and every year I send some feedback on it, but I've never really done a video on it. My tours often revolve around this specific topic, and I thought, let me do a video and help you guys out. So the first question I have for you is, can you name the 4 major rivers in Africa? And I'll show them to you and you will probably remember. The Niger runs up here in West Africa. Then the Congo runs from the Congo all the way around to northern Angola. Then we have the Nile River that runs from Lake Victoria up to the Mediterranean. And the 4th one, and the reason I'm doing this video, is the Zambezi. The Zambezi runs down from the Congo down towards Mozambique at the edge at Beira. It flows out. Now, in comparison, the Nile River and the Zambezi River are very similar in their flow rates, and very, very similar types of rivers. When David Livingstone was around, he was given one of the instructions for him by Queen Victoria was to establish if the Congo River and the Zambezi and the Nile River are related. And he came around here. Now, his first trip up into Africa, he went through to Luanda, and he knew more or less what the Congo River was doing, which came out here on the Atlantic Ocean. Then he went back again and he came in from the Mozambican side, and he went around Lake Tanganyika. Now, Lake Tanganyika flows out to the north, and Lake Victoria flows out to the north. So what he did was, as he traveled in from Zanzibar, Bagamoyo area in Tanzania, he basically cut straight west all the way to Tanganyika, and every time he comes across a little stream, you would identify whether the stream was flowing in which direction. And he found that most of these streams were flowing to the north. And then he went around Lake Tanganyika and he got to the Congo River, and that also flowed to the north. And then as he came around to the bottom end, he realized that the rivers now started flowing south, which means the watershed sits right here at Lake Tanganyika, underneath Lake Tanganyika. So the catchment area for the Zambezi is pretty much the southern portion of the DRC, Angola, the eastern side of Angola, all the way up to Lake Malawi. The furthest river that we know that flows into the Zambezi River is the Kwanda River. The Kwanda River sits just next to the Okavango, right around here. It goes through the Caprivi Strip. And then some of the water of the delta also flows through via the Linyanti streams, flows into the Zambezi. The Zambezi was also the reason why the Makgadikgadi pans finally dried up. The Makgadikgadi pans down here, you know them. If you've been on a Botswana trip with me, it finally dried up with these waters just draining out through Kariba at the top. So that is the catchment area of the Zambezi River. Now, when people say the Zambezi is dry, David Livingstone is said to have found the Vic Falls, which of course is not true. The local people knew about Vic Falls long before Livingstone did. The name that they gave the Vic Falls was Mosi Atunya, which means smoke that thunders. And Livingstone was well known amongst black people, and they heard that he was looking for the Zambezi's origin. And they took him around and showed him the places. So this route that he walked around Tanganyika and this Congo section to look for the origin of the Zambezi and where the Congo and Zambezi split, the watershed, the local people took him around and showed him the different things. So the Vic Falls was one of those major things, and on the 16th of November 1955, Livingstone discovered the falls, and he decided to name it after his queen, and therefore it became the Victoria Falls. Now, Victoria Falls, you see on YouTube and on WhatsApp, people sending me photos and saying the Vic Falls has dried up. and it has a cycle. Because the rainwaters that falls down in the catchment area take such a long time to get to the falls. The falls dry up every year between August and November. As soon as the summer rainfall happens in southern Angola and northern Botswana, as soon as that summer rain comes back, the northern waters that runs down with the Zambezi arrives at Vic Falls together with the summer rains that falls in Botswana. That also now goes into the Vic Falls. And as these two flows of water gets together, it reaches the fall at around December of every year. So if you go to the Vic Falls in November, it is always going to be dry. Now, Livingstone declared that it is a magnificent sight to see, and he saw it on the 16th of November, which tells us that he probably saw it in a dry season. He didn't see it when it was flown fully when he made his statement, but he might have already had an idea of this river and the magnitude of it. So whenever you plan a trip up to the Vic Falls, you have to keep in mind that the best time to see it is when the Angolan waters and the Botswana waters and the Zambian rainfall, the summer rain, starts getting into the system, and the river will then swell and it will flow. In December 2019, last year, the flow of the river was still 11 centimeters higher than the lowest point in about 1915 or somewhere where it was measured. That was the driest year in the last 100 years, was about 80 years ago. And the river last year was still higher than it was in those times. So we still haven't broken that low level record. The reason for the lack of flow is, of course, climate change and all of these things that we all know about. But the river isn't drying up. It's not yet. It is still actually flowing within the normal specs of flow. Now, at the moment, the Vic Falls is recording some of its highest flows in recent history because we had so much rain in the catchment area. So if you booked on a Botswana trip with me this year, July, we are going to have a delta that I expect to be really good. The water levels should be very high in the delta, and Vic Falls should be very good in July as well. Our Botswana tours ends at at the Victoria Falls. So if you're on a trip with me, we end at Kasane, and then if you stay a day or two extra, you can visit the falls with a little transfer bus that I can organize for you, and you can visit the falls this year in July. So this year I think is going to be a good year. So book on one of my Botswana tours. The one is full already. The other one has only space for 2 or 3 vehicles. So if you haven't booked on the Botswana tour yet, do it, and you can get to see the Vic Falls in good flow as it is at the moment. So Vic Falls is a cyclic tourist attraction. It's not the same every year, but every year it goes through the dry cycle and then the wet cycle. So if you want to go and visit the falls and you want to see it in its full flow, then the best would be to aim for our winter. If you want to see the falls and walk maybe the edge of the fall, swim in Devil's Pool, things like that, then you want to do it when the river is slightly drier, because otherwise you'll just get washed over the edge. If you ever fly over the Vic Falls, then you'll see that there's several Vic Falls that have been created by the river in the years gone past. And currently we are just on the latest version of the Vic Falls. The Zambezi also drops about 1,500 meters over a distance of 2,500 kilometers. The official origin of the Zambezi is up just in southern Congo, just outside of Zambia, and it throws through the Barotse Plains, Ngonya Falls, Vic Falls, Kariba, Korabasa, all the way down into Beira. Something also quite interesting is the original northern boundary of the Zulus were the Zambezi River. So it's very interesting. Where does the name come from? Nobody really knows. It is thought that Zambezi refers to the Great River in Tonga language, but the Lozi also refers to the river as the Zambezi, which means the heart of all. So it's a possibility that it's just a combination of of all of these terminologies. The last bit of interesting information is the Cahora Bassa Dam, which falls right in the Zambezi below the Kariba. And Cahora Bassa, on some maps you will see spelled with a B, Cabora Bassa. That is a spelling error. The cartographers made a spelling mistake and they listed the dam's name as Cabora Bassa. It's not a B, it's a H, Cahora Bassa. So that was just a spelling mistake, and it's still today, many people refer to Cahora Bassa as the Cabora Bassa Dam. So if you haven't traveled around Southern Africa with me yet and you want to cross the Zambezi and see what it's like, I am planning a trip that will do the length of the Zambezi, but that might still be about 2 years away. Mozambique is a bit of a problem as far as security goes, and I really would like to include the Mozambican section because that is a very impressive part of the Zambezi. But if you haven't traveled with me in the southern parts of Africa, then join one of my trips. Vic Falls from Johannesburg is exactly the same distance as Port Elizabeth. If you've never been there, then you don't really have any reason not to go there. Port Elizabeth, 1,200 kilometers from Johannesburg, as is the Vic Falls. It's a tar road all the way there, so you can get into your Corolla and you can go there by yourself. So it's not a difficult tour, and there's a lot of things to see on the way. So join one of my tours, and I'll tell you more about the big rivers in Africa. Cheers.